it is today. And without her, we couldn't have done it. She really understood the needs of the people of Queens, both in terms of creating jobs and creating cultural opportunities and educational opportunities for everyone, no matter where you came from. Her personal strength helped out so many to be the best that they could be. And you've heard a lot of that tonight. And she will be missed, but her impacts here in Queens will be felt forever. Thank you very much for letting me join you tonight.
Thank you, Alan Suna. Another Claire Shulman legacy is the Flushing Town Hall, or the restoration of it. At one time, this historic building was left empty, abandoned, a shell. And Claire Shulman worked with the Flushing Council on the Arts, created a board, invested public capital into it, and transformed it into a thriving cultural institution that we know and love today. With us tonight is Ellen Kodadek, Executive Director of the Flushing Town Hall, who today continues to execute Claire's vision of an inclusive, community-based cultural institution. Ellen Kodadek, welcome.
Thank you so very much. Our deepest condolences to all of Claire's loved ones. Flushing Town Hall is among the many, many arts organizations in Queens that would not be here today without Claire's staunch and unwavering belief in the importance of the arts to create and to sustain communities. Both of those things were incredibly important to her, creating and sustaining community and bringing people together. When I first came to Flushing Town Hall in 2008, she told me, "I'm trusting you with something very important to me and to the people of Queens, and I'll be watching." And she did watch over how things were going and was always available for a question or advice or to check in. Fast forward 11 years. In 2019, I asked Claire if we could honor her at Flushing Town Hall's 40th anniversary gala with our first Joanne Jones Award for Devoted Leadership, named after our founder and her dear friend. Over lunch at Mythos, her favorite Greek restaurant, she told me, "I don't usually do that kind of thing anymore, but you've done a great job, kid, and I'm really proud of Flushing Town Hall, and so I accept." I remember how proud I was that Claire was proud of me and the institution that she had entrusted to me, because I knew what very high standards she had. Claire then spent months with her Rolodex and with Vicky and Alex and Michelle and so many others to ensure that the evening was a success. Claire told a great story about how when she was borough president, she told Joanne Jones to go to Flushing Town Hall, then a derelict building on the verge of demolition, and to sit inside and stay there and not leave. And that's how they got the building and saved it from being torn down. She laughed heartily at that memory and made us all laugh along with her boldness. 42 years later, Flushing Town Hall exists because of Claire. She and Joanne pulled that derelict into the future for generations to come. I don't need to tell any of you what a remarkable woman Claire was. We've heard tribute after tribute tonight. She always reminded me of a fierce tigress, supporting, protecting, and fighting for everything she believed in, all overlaid with deep, deep love and an unwavering certainty for what is right. Yehi zichra livracha tamid. May Claire's memory be for a blessing always. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, I know we've hit the 8 o'clock mark, and I appreciate you being kind and generous with your time. Perhaps we are a little too ambitious thinking that we could fit such a remarkable life into just 2 hours, but we will continue through because we have a number of wonderful folks who are witness to the tremendous legacy of Claire. Another Claire Shulman legacy is the Queens Botanical Gardens. During her tenure, Claire Shulman reformed the board of directors and poured substantial seed money, pun intended, into it. And it is now, of course, one of our county's most treasured institutions at the forefront of green infrastructure and green technology. But she started that even before it was even popular or even necessary. With us tonight from the Queens Botanical Gardens is someone who worked very closely with Claire on this vision, Executive Director Susan Lacerte. Welcome.
Thank you, Borough President Lee. And yes, seeds are they're popular right now. We just did an event on seeds. And I will just say that Claire, she doesn't need a last name. In Queens, when you say Claire, you know that it means Claire Shulman. She's a nurse, a mother, a wife, and she wanted to make sure that her kids and all kids got everything they needed. She, upon my arrival as executive director, she said to me, "Do a good job." And so with those simple, direct, heartfelt words, and with her very able-bodied, knowledgeable chief of staff, Alex Rosa, people like Jane Safer, Jan Schneider, who I know is listening tonight, we embarked on bringing the garden back into flower again. I treasured my frequent meetings with her. She supported our vision of having the garden really lead the way in environmental expression. She got the ball rolling on that, and then Helen embraced it after her. With her support and leadership, we got the first LEED Platinum building in all of New York State, which is very hard to get. We were ahead of the curve, the great green wave that swept the nation and the world with our photovoltaic roof, water gathering roof, and green roof, geothermal heating and cooling. I always marveled how great Claire was at the mic. Every single event, she would deal with big issues, but also with the people. She always had stories to tell about the people. She remembered their names. One thing she said about me is she has twins, and those twins are almost 25. So she was like an aunt to me. She would have wisdom. She would lead you in a direction. She would say, be very supportive of you, but she would also say, well, where did you get those shoes? I really need another comfortable pair. So she was just a real person. I talked to her about 3 weeks before she died, not knowing, of course, that would be my last conversation with her. And she said that you have made an institution. You're the best thing that ever happened to that place. And I just say, I loved Claire. So many of us loved Claire. And so many of us are so thankful that we got to know her for so long. So thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Susan Lessert. Another legacy is the Queen's Theater in the park. You know, at one time, it, of course, stood as an abandoned relic of the World's Fair. So, of course, Claire Shulman worked with Kitty Carlisle Hart, invested the seed money, and worked with the board to create the theater we know and cherish today. With us tonight is with Claire on it during his time as the executive director of the Queen's Theater, someone who cultivated new and dynamic productions and transformed it into the cultural magnet that it is today. Jeff Rosenstock, welcome.
Thank you. So Claire Shulman, what a force. Who else could keep our borough hitting the highest notes under her masterful conducting of leaders and doers who said, hey, we want to be in your orchestra. I came to Queens in 1989 to reopen an abandoned World's Fair building into Queen's Theater in the Park. Claire's the one who fought the city to issue the RFP. She knew the funds for the theater were being diverted to another borough, and she wouldn't have any of that. As many heard me say over curtain speeches over the years, no Claire Shulman, no Queen's Theater in the Park. And anytime I saw her, she'd always ask, how's my playhouse doing? And it wasn't a rhetorical question. She always reminded me, I invested taxpayer dollars into that theater, so you be sure to give them the return on their investment. And in 2002, when she completed her term as borough president, we honored her by naming our main auditorium the Claire Shulman Playhouse, because this is the house that Claire Shulman built. And in 1994, I had a crazy idea of getting legislators to perform in a show to raise funds for the theater. Claire was the first, and when she said yes, all the rest of the politicians also agreed to take center stage in spoofs of TV, movies, and Broadway shows. Claire, always playing opposite Peter Vallone Sr., portrayed Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca, Liza Doolittle in My Fair Lady, and Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. And in 2013, she played the role of Wonder Woman, which was typecasting on my part, because Wonder Woman is who Claire was each and every day for all of us in Queens. I love you, Claire.
Thank you, Jeff Rosenstock. Another Claire Shulman legacy, the New York Hall of Science in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park. At one time, yes, you guessed it, it was an empty, dilapidated building. Water dripping from the ceilings when she visited because she was very hands-on and went to the site. But Claire Shulman saw the promise, and she came from a family of medicine, as you've heard, and was immersed in the medical field. She was a nurse by trade, as you've heard, and had high regard for the sciences and knew it was the key to Queens' future. And so Claire Shulman developed it with Alan Friedman, the first executive director. And when Margaret Honey took it over, they became very, very close personal friends, and it expanded into the institution it is today. Margaret Honey, welcome.
Thank you so much, Borough President Lee, Vicki, and the Shulman family. It really is an honor to be asked to join in this memorial service for Claire. Like all of you, I adored Claire Shulman, and from the moment we met, she felt intimate, familiar, someone I had always known. Claire had, as we've heard throughout the evening, a non-negotiable commitment to using government as a force for good. And that was a value that was very much etched in my own upbringing. Government was a tool to be used to create a better world, and Claire wanted only the best for Queens, the best theater, the best art museum, the best botanical garden, and of course, a world-class science center. Claire worked hand in glove with NYSCI's founding director, Dr. Alan Friedman, to transform the Hall of Science into the world-class institution it is today. She was proud that she created a science center for the children of Queens that could rival any other venue in the world. Claire's last visit, of course, I didn't know it was going to be her last visit, was on December 4th, 2019. She came to see a traveling show that we were hosting called Art of the Brick, giant Lego sculptures, a really, really wonderful show. And she was delighted. Her eyes sparkled, her hands slapped her knees. And I remember her exclaiming, "Oh, how I wish I were 10 all over again." And Claire being Claire, she followed up that same day with an email back to me, and I'm going to quote from it. "Dear Margaret, what a wonderful day it has been. The museum, of course, is way beyond my expectations, and you are a super angel person." I think she had a lot of angel people in her life. She goes on, "It is so inspiring and breathtaking, and it's in Queens. I am very parochial. Thanks for lunch. Excuse my typing. I will never be a secretary, but I am very good at sewers. See you soon, Claire." I feel incredibly fortunate to have been the beneficiary of Claire's foresight and wisdom, and I'll be forever grateful for her wonderful stream of typo-laden notes of encouragement and support. And I know that all of us together will continue to work on realizing her vision for her beloved Queens. So thank you.
Thank you, Margaret Honey. Another Claire Shulman legacy, the Queens Public Television, one of our partners for this celebration and tribute tonight. QPTV, the very first public access channel in Queens, made possible by Stuart Domber and Claire Shulman's aggressive negotiations for the cable franchise agreement. The following is a message from QPTV's Dan Leone. We may be having, here we go.
Let's say without Claire Shulman, there would not be community media. Claire was instrumental in negotiations with the cable operators and the municipality. During the early 1980s, her efforts and hard work allowed the residents of Queens an opportunity to have their voices heard. Those voices continue to be heard today. I'm honored to have worked with Claire.
And next we have a short clip and we get to hear Claire Shulman's voice as she speaks about public access.
many years ago when public access and cable television was really the starter of all these companies came in and they wanted to do cable television in the borough of Queens, and everybody had different ideas about how to do it. And it was Cablevision and it was Time Warner. But part of the cable television coming to the borough, to the city of New York, as a matter of fact, which was public access. Public access was part of the contract. And all the companies that finally got the contract for cable television were required to do a public access contract. And it was wonderful because it gave our people the opportunity to express some of the things that they think are very important for the future of the borough. It gave people that were just beginning to express their heritage in terms of cultural events. As a matter of fact, because this borough is so diverse in population, public access gives us the opportunity to tell the world what we have here, and allows them to express what they have to share with other cultures. And it shows the world that we get along with each other and do very well with each other. And there is very little friction among the wonderful people that come here from all over the world. And they speak, I don't know, maybe 170 different languages and dialects. And so we are very proud of Queens. We are very proud of the city of New York. And we are always welcoming people that want to come here to live and work. And I know there's lots of conversations about people coming here, but the reason the city of New York is the greatest city in the world is because the people that come here, they create the fabric of what New York City is and what the future of the city is. And we are grateful for everyone. And let me tell you that the dream is still alive because people come here and become very successful. And I can give you chapter and verse about how that works. And this is a great country, and the city of New York is the greatest of them all. Really, it is the essence of our democracy.
Thank you. And now we will move on to the transformational landscape speakers, and I'll hand the mic back over to Vicki Schneps.
Admired, Catherine Weil. Are you there with us? She is the head of the Partnership of New York City, one of the most important organizations that we have in our city, making change.
Thank
Catherine?
you, Vicki.
Okay, you're there. Great.
I am here, and thank you, Sharon. I'm delighted to be here. I express sympathy to Claire's family, and thanks to you both for putting on this recognition. I think my job is to say that Claire was not just a treasure for Queens, she was a treasure for all of New York City. When she came to power, there was a huge challenge in New York City, a crisis of confidence in the leadership of the city. And Claire, more than anyone else, reassured New Yorkers that our government had a future that was authentic, that was real, that was dedicated to the people of New York, not self-serving. We face another crisis today, and I think tonight's service is important because it reminds us of the kind of leadership that Claire provided and that we need today in New York City. It has to be authentic as she was. It has to care more about people and the future of the city than personal political power or ideology. And so thank you for doing this because it reminds all of us, and I hope for succeeding generations, the younger generations, it inspires them to understand what's important and what Claire stood for and what we need to do to fight for our city today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And now we move to Jacqueline McCary, who runs the New York Presbyterian Queens, another power woman.
Thank you, Vicki. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thanks. It's really my honor to be here. As was mentioned, Claire was a nurse, and she reminded me she was a nurse almost every time I saw her. She was an advocate for health care for Queens. In 1996, she was instrumental in getting approval from New York State for a cardiothoracic surgery program, the only one in Queens. She joined the board of directors of New York Presbyterian Queens. It was not called it back then. She joined the board in 2002 and remained active on our board up until the very last board meeting. She attended every meeting, even if we had to go pick her up, and she participated vigorously. She really wanted the residents of Queens to remain in Queens for healthcare, and she challenged us to bring every service possible to our hospital so we can keep care in Queens. And it was my personal goal to honor her and do that. On a personal note, when I joined the hospital 4 years ago, I met Claire very shortly thereafter, and we had an immediate connection. She was so excited that the hospital finally had a woman president. From there, she made it her personal mission to introduce me to as many people as she can, mostly powerful women. She, in fact, introduced me to Vicki, to Susan Lacerte. She suggested that I join Margaret Honey on the board of NYSI, and I'm really eternally grateful. She really took me under her wing. We had board calls every single week during the pandemic, and she listened with great fervor about what we were doing during the crisis. And she was very interested in how the staff was doing and how I was doing personally. She always told me how proud she was of me and of everybody who worked at the hospital to really advance care in Queens. It was really my honor and privilege, as Vicki knows, to help her during her final visit to our hospital. We made the stay as best we could for her, and the only worry she had was for her dog. So it was really a privilege knowing her. I'm happy that I was able to help her in her final visit, and I will make it my goal to make her proud of my hospital. And I wanted to express the sympathies from our board and all of our 5,000 employees. So thank you for inviting me to join this evening.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for the tender, loving care you gave her just a week, before she died. So it was really a very wonderful, caring time for her that you made it so special. And now we have Joe Ficalora, the CEO of New York Community Bank, known in Queens as Queens County Savings Bank, and a very loving person for Claire. Joe, you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
And
great.
certainly it's been a pleasure to hear the many wonderful things said about Claire this evening. I would like to add that I currently serve on 2 boards of directors with Claire. So Claire is not done. Claire has been working right up until today. She is a very active participant in what is important to Queens whenever she can be. And she's been a significant contributor to the 2 boards that I have the pleasure of serving on with Claire Shulman. I would suggest that we've all heard how wonderful she has been to the borough. And in particular, I know that she was instrumental in the redevelopment of the Corona Plaza. We funded it because she made it possible. And it has become a much better place for the people of Corona to actually commute to and from work via the number 7 line. But in any event, I definitely believe that we've today captured some of what makes Claire so very, very unique and special. All these decades of contribution to the well-being of her peers, to the well-being of the people of Queens, very important for us all. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Joe. That Corona Park project was so close to her heart, and she loved that relationship that you made. Vinny
Yeah.
Rizzo, who was a dear, dear friend of Claire's and involved in a lot of the affordable housing and is head of the Briarwood organization, was going to speak, but he couldn't. But I just wanted to mention how much the love and how he watched over her, and she looked forward to their Sunday night movies and dinners out. And I am so happy to have Stephen and Thomas Chen from Crystal Windows talk with us.
Good evening. Thank you, Vicki, for arranging this tribute, and thank you for the family and friends of Claire's for sharing such wonderful stories. I am Steve Chen of Crystal Windows, and on behalf of myself and my father, Thomas Chen, it is an honor to participate in this tribute in memory of Claire Shulman. Claire was truly an extraordinary person. She was someone who tirelessly pursued what was best for the people and businesses of Queens. Claire was a mentor, an advisor, a motivator, Crystal's biggest fan, and a dear friend who over the past 30 years was instrumental in the success of Crystal Windows. My father often speaks of the time about 20 years ago when Claire was borough president and how she kept the New York City EDC on task as we acquired our manufacturing property in the College Point Corporate Park, which was pretty desolate back then. As the new building was ready to be opened in September of 2001, Claire was there again, cutting through the approval delays with the building department as many city operations grounded to a halt following the 9/11 attacks. Today, our Queens factory and headquarters employs over 370 employees and is the flagship of our national network of production facilities, which includes almost 700 employees. Thomas shared with Claire a love of the arts. We are very glad that last October, she was able to visit the Crystal Park Outdoor Art and Nature Preserve in Dutchess County. And I believe, Vicki, you were there too.
Yes.
To see the future site of a statue commissioned in her honor, which I'm going to try to give a sneak preview.
Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful? She
Already.
loved the design.
Yes, yes, yes. And
She gave it a Tech Plus.
are you able to see this here?
I don't think so.
No, well then, it is going to, there is a
We'll get it up online, Stephen. Send it to me. Send me a copy because at qns.com, people can send their memories if they couldn't say enough tonight. And you can send that because that's meant so much to her to go to the park and to see the site that would hold her statue.
Thank you. And I'm adding to the tribute from her grandparents to me. I'm part of the younger generation that was very fortunate to have gone to know Claire. I know everyone's been saying Claire's been queens of Queens, but to me, I felt that she was the grandparent to all of Queens. She was at my wedding. Months later, when we met on occasion, she would ask me, almost demanded, on status of when me and my wife were having children. And when we did, she constantly always wants to see pictures of our children. We always miss Claire, and we will never forget her. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And to close out this piece of the program, I just want you to know that this was Claire's last project and something she adored and something she put every ounce of her body, mind, and spirit into. And John Racanelli, who is the chairman of this project, the Willits Point Corona Local Development Corporation. John.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you all for putting this together, contributing tonight, and of course, my condolences to Claire's family. And she had a very large extended family as well. I've had the privilege of working with Claire for several years as chairman of the LDC, which Claire founded in 2007 at the very young age of 80, incredibly. As president and driving force of the LDC, Claire conceived and initiated projects that are transforming Flushing and the Flushing Creek waterfront. At Claire's graceful but relentless urging, the Long Island Railroad and the MTA completed badly needed improvements to the Main Street Long Island Railroad station. She conceived and led the effort to develop a vacant municipal lot into 232 units of affordable housing. The LDC successfully bid for and was awarded a Brownfield Opportunity Area Program grant from the New York Department of State, which led to a partnership with the city Department of Planning, which is actually the subcontractor of the LDC for this project, and the creation of the special Flushing Waterfront District, which will soon be realized in the redevelopment of 40 acres between College Point Boulevard and Flushing Creek. It's called Flushing West. I think you've all seen certain renderings of this exciting project. Claire's concern for seniors and the lack of accessible healthcare coverage led to the LDC's creation of the Healthy Flushing Community Action Plan, which provided health initiatives, including outdoor Tai Chi classes for seniors. Claire remained active till the end and was always looking for projects for the betterment of her beloved Queens. And to the end, she displayed all the qualities for which Claire was so highly loved and respected, and which so many speakers tonight have described. Claire truly was a marvel and will be missed by all who had the privilege of knowing and working with her. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for sharing that. She is a role model for our city and for every political leader that there is today. If only they will listen and learn from her being a leader in our community. Thank you, John. And now I wanted to see Alex Rosa. Spotlight on Alex.
Tonight, we joined together to honor a woman who transcends the word greatness. I want to thank from the bottom of my heart, Borough President Sharon Lee and Vicki Schneps and the incredible team at QPTV for putting this together and helping us celebrate her life. There were so many people who reached out with loving tributes to Claire because she touched so many lives, and she has her imprint of progress in every corner of the borough. As I mourn her passing, I could still hear her voice ringing in my ears saying, "Let's go, Cookie. There's work to be done." In our tumultuous world, there's clearly so much more to be done. So let that be the way that we honor Claire, by carrying on her imperative to always move forward and to always improve the lives of the people around us. Rest easy, Ma.
We are putting a special memorial. People want to make donations to the Hall of Science, where money will go towards exhibitions, which she loved so much, and Margaret Honey spoke about, so that it is available for anyone who would like to put a donation in her memory. That will be where we will have a special program for her. Thank you so much, Alex. And there's a gallery view. Sharon?
Hi, Vicki. And before we close, I just want to say a quick thing, and I'll give you the last word. But for everybody in this room, thank you so much for joining us for this, again, very special tribute. It was my deep honor to co-host this with Vicki Schneps, with the guidance of Alex Rosa, QPTV, and everybody, as we mentioned at the beginning. And I will just say that for everybody in the room, as well as everybody who's watching on QPTV and online, if I should say when you miss Claire, just look around. Anywhere in Queens, her legacy is truly ubiquitous. And to her families, to Claire's families, thank you so much for sharing her with Queens and the world.
Thank you. And thank Elizabeth Aloni for putting this together with this webinar that has seamlessly run for an hour and 2 hours and a half, but it's never enough time because Claire seems to have, we can't get enough of her, and we thought she would live forever, but she is forever in our hearts, and I know in mine. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Good night.